like
Barry besmirching Mike Stoops' wife. Newsroom, it's time for another Thunder Thursday. I'm Jenny Carlson here in studio with our Thunder coverage team. That's columnist Barry Trammell, beat writer Eric Horn, beat writer Brett Dawson, and guys, now the NBA season, it's officially over. We have a champion. Well, I don't know if we do, but NBA has a champion in the Golden State Warriors. Everybody knows a big 4-1 win in the finals. Barry, you were wrong. Wasn't a sweep. Sorry.
It was not a sweep. I was wrong. We do not have a champion, as you stated. The cold, dark forces of evil have a champion. The Golden State Warriors rule the world.
Guys, let's just talk about this for a second. We're going to talk about it as it relates to the Thunder here in just a minute. But ratings down in Oklahoma City, people clearly not really caring, I think, is probably the bottom line, not wanting to watch Durant and these guys play in the finals. But it was what we thought it was going to be, Eric. I mean, it really did come down to just too much talent on the floor for the Golden State Warriors, and that has to be concerning for everybody around the league because it doesn't look like these guys are breaking up anytime soon.
Yeah, it's very concerning. You know, aside from the first game where Cleveland turned the ball over a ton and Golden State played that really perfect game in terms of not turning the ball over, only had 4 turnovers to Cleveland's 20. The Cavaliers really didn't play that poorly either. It's just a testament to Golden State's incredible defense and the fact that they were able to go out and get a top 5 player in the world to take him over the edge. Kevin Durant was the difference. As we saw in the games that they played against Oklahoma City this year, when it came time, when the game was close, Kevin Durant could say, okay, I'm going to go score 12 in a row or this many in a row or get a dunk or a big three. And he showed it. And he certainly earned the MVP award of the finals. And good luck to the rest of the league.
Didn't need Durant until they needed Durant, Brett. I mean, that's kind of what it came down to. But Eric said something interesting. For all the firepower, the defense was probably, I mean, we've seen it. We saw it a year ago. We talked about it a year ago in that great Western Conference series that we saw. But the Golden State defense is probably an underrated aspect of their excellence this season.
Yeah, one of the great strengths of Golden State is team defense. They have some really good individual defenders, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, but they are really good as a team defensively. They rotate really well. They help really well. They communicate great. They're really hard to deal with on that end. That said, I mean, look, Cleveland gave us a blueprint. All you have to do is have LeBron James and Kyrie Irving play some of the best games they've ever played and make more threes than anybody's ever made in the history of the playoffs, and you got a chance to beat these guys.
All right, guys, let's put into context this championship. I know you no doubt discussed this on Thunder Buddies, the podcast earlier this week, but Barry, you wrote in the Wednesday paper, I believe it was, about this trophy for Durant and how it really is trophy wife-ish. I mean, that's pretty strong, but I mean, it fits with what you wrote about, the fact that this was a tailor-made championship won, not this June, but last July.
Yeah, it's predetermined. This was an exhibition series. I mean, if you like to see people make great plays, shoot the ball well, all that stuff, it's fantastic. Like going to see the Globetrotters. But you know what's going to happen in the end. So the drama is gone, and the formation of this team with Durant joining an already super team sucked the drama and the life out of the NBA competition. It's still a fun season. Somebody said, why should I watch the NBA? I said, I'm ready for it to restart. I mean, I had a great time watching the NBA this year. Watching not just in Oklahoma City with Westbrook, but all kinds of good players and interesting teams. Just don't pretend that there's drama at the end. Mm-hmm. We know who's going to win.
Yeah, and the guys, that has to be, I mean, Russell Westbrook kind of saved the NBA from a really not much drama during the regular season, I think. I mean, Barry's right. There's great players everywhere. There's great teams everywhere. But without the Westbrook thing, we would have just been talking about foregone conclusion. Warriors, Cavs, Finals, Warriors. I mean, Russell Westbrook, maybe he should win the MVP just because of that, Brett.
Well, he definitely, his individual performance, and not just his individual performance, he was great, but that triple-double chase, the idea of could somebody do it, it did add a level of drama to the season that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And this is a problem for the NBA going forward, just in this sense. The TV ratings for the finals were great. If these two teams play again next year, the ratings will be great again. It's proven over the course of history, people like dynasties. They like to watch dynasties. But you had short series. You had lopsided series in the playoffs. You had these two teams not really get challenged until they played each other, and Golden State not really get challenged at all. That eventually will have a wear-down effect on people because the fans of the other 29 teams will start to wonder what's the point.
Did we learn anything about the Thunder, Eric, as it relates to what we saw in the finals? I mean, if you're Sam Presti and you're watching that, or you're Troy Weaver and you're watching that Thunder front office, Billy Donovan even, I mean, did you learn anything about the state of the Thunder by watching that final series?
I guess it was more so of a reaffirmation of how far you have to go. And that's not just for the Thunder, that's for the entire league. You saw the best team besides Golden State go up against Golden State and not really come close. Mm-hmm. So as far as the Thunder standpoint, I don't know if there's anything new that they could glean from that. They knew what they had in Kevin Durant when he left. They knew how great of a player he was, and I'm pretty sure they knew how capable he was of putting up these efficient numbers when he was paired with the type of shooting and talent that Golden State has around him. I think it's also kind of a reaffirmation of maybe we didn't know as much about Kevin Durant and his thought process as we thought we did. The Thunder, they go away from this saying, Kevin wanted something new. They kind of had an idea that Kevin wanted to do this, but I don't know if we really knew to the extent of how much Kevin wanted that new adventure and wanted to go out and experience something new. And as the farther that the finals went on, we got to understanding throughout some stories that came out through ESPN and various outlets that this thing had been in his mind for a long time, that he wanted to go and pursue this basketball venture. And he got what he wanted. He got the championship, and he certainly fulfilled whatever destiny he wanted to do out there in Golden State with the not the Rockets, the Warriors this finals.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that the Thunder found out is what everybody else found out. Look, LeBron James, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Love is not enough. So you know that James Harden is not enough. You know that Russell Westbrook is not enough. You're going to have to get more. And what that tells you is these guys are far away. I mean, these other contenders, if you want to even call them contenders, the other teams in the West outside of San Antonio, they got a long way to go to catch these guys. A long way. It's not a one-trade situation.
Yeah. What about it, Barry?
Well, and I think there's a realization that not only are you far away, it's an unreachable shore. You're not going to catch these Warriors in their present state. They're going to have to get hurt. They're going to have to disband to some degree. You're not going to form a team that can beat the Warriors. So the question becomes, what do you do with that information? Do you play for second, which is what, as fans, I think we all want our teams to do, be as good as you can, or do you just step back and say, you know what, we're not going to win it anyway. Let's build for the deep future, and let's not, let's be economically sound and save our money for the day when we could win it.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying, Brett, to your point, you're talking about James Harden isn't enough, Russell Westbrook isn't enough. I wonder, do we see another super team try to emerge? Somebody be a kingpin, a dynasty maker, if you will, trying to lure. Obviously Golden State, they had a great draft. They drafted Curry, they drafted Thompson, they drafted Green. I mean, you can't underestimate, you can't undersell the fact that the big core of this team was drafted by Golden State. So kudos to them. Obviously the Durant ad changes everything, but do you see somebody become a kingmaker? I mean, is that potentially going to happen out there?
Well, I saw some talk on Twitter like, tonight you can bet there are text messages flying back and forth between star players about how do we make this happen, where do we go, how do we align to give ourselves a chance to beat these guys. And maybe that's true, but the thing, what you said is true. Golden State built this team. It's got some very fortunate contracts. The Steph Curry contract is well below market value now. It was kind of a risky contract at the time because of his injury situation. But that combined with the cap spike allowed this team to exist. It's going to be very hard for anybody going forward to build a team organically in any way right now that competes with these guys.
All right, guys, so that begs the question, where does this leave the Thunder with its current pieces? And one piece that I think a lot of us feel can have a big impact on the future is Victor Oladipo. And lo and behold, we saw him pop up on Twitter, was it last week? Looking like a new man, Eric. I mean, this guy said in exit interviews he was going to have a big offseason. It looks like he may be starting down that path.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that Victor Oladipo is in terrible shape, but now he seems to be in chiseled, bodybuilder type of shape. He's clearly lost some weight. He's slimmed down some. And I've said before, I think that the Thunder's quickest way to getting at least closer to Golden State is internal improvement. And when you're seeing guys like Victor Oladipo committed to their bodies and working out and doing the things that they need to do to come back better next year, I think that's the first step in the Thunder or any other team in this league getting better. It's not often that teams go and nab a free agent, particularly the Thunder, since they just don't have that history of going and getting big-name free agents in the open market, not to mention they don't have the cap space to do so this summer. So for guys like Victor Oladipo to show their commitment in the summer, I mean, that's what it's going to take to make those first large steps towards getting closer to Golden State.
Barry, Eric brings up that improvement. Can Victor Oladipo, could he potentially become a star, a superstar even in this league, or is that ship sailed and he's not going to ever reach that level?
I don't know that he could become a superstar if I don't know where you draw that line. But he easily could become a star level player. I've run some numbers on Victor Oladipo and Gordon Hayward. Very similar at the same age. Gordon Hayward now, I think it's 27, became an all-star this year. Everybody wants him on the free agent market. No reason why Victor Oladipo couldn't make the same progression. Now, doesn't mean he will. Gordon Hayward worked hard, was in a good situation, knew what he was doing, and it happened. Doesn't mean it'll happen for Victor Oladipo, but it could. Guys do get better, guys do develop, guys do go from really good player to star-level player. Thunder needs Victor Oladipo to do that.
Go ahead, Eric.
Well, I was just going to say that we saw in this series against Golden State, even when you have some of the best athletes in the world, LeBron James or Kyrie Irving, they're still going to get fatigued by how many good players that Golden State runs out there. Mm-hmm. So I think it would probably benefit most of the teams in the league to have their guys in optimal shape when they're running around chasing Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant off screens. So if Victor Oladipo is going to come back in better shape, that's got to be a plus for the Thunder.
What did it say to you, Brett, when you saw the picture? I mean, like you say, he wasn't in bad shape, for crying out loud. He's an NBA player who can jump out of the gym. He can do all sorts of amazing things. But then to see that physical transformation, the phrase six-pack abs comes to mind for me in the transformation photo after only, 3 weeks? I mean, what did it say to you, Brett, when you saw that?
Well, it said that he's really devoted, that he's working with smart people. The trainer he's working with has worked with a lot of players, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Norris Cole, our very own Norris Cole.
Did we say our very own, really?
So he's gotten with the right people. He's taking it very seriously. I think you always wonder when guys go their separate ways in the summer. There have been a lot of guys hanging out here. Eric talked about guys doing their own thing. We've also seen, I think, a good sign for the Thunder that you've got Alex Abrinas coming back here. You've got Domas Sabonis spending a lot of time here. Steven Adams has been here quite a bit. Doug McDermott. So I think all those things, they tell you a little bit. And in talking to McDermott a couple weeks ago, he said this is a team that's really focused on getting better, on coming back and being a better team than it was. Felt like it left some things on the table against the Rockets. So I think what you see there is sort of a team-wide motivation, and Oladipo is kind of exemplifies that with kind of the work he's put in so far.
All right, guys, let me remind you, you're watching Thunder Thursday, our weekly look at all things Thunder related. And as we talk about the future of the Thunder, guys, obviously the draft has to be on our minds, and it's coming up next week. It was a year ago that we saw the Thunder make a huge draft night move, sent Serge Ibaka away, got Victor Oladipo, amongst others from Orlando. Barry, what's the best guess on what we're going to see on draft night? I mean, does Sam Presti have to use an open window to make a move to do something more than just make a draft pick?
Well, they always do trade, so I don't know why they wouldn't this year. I mean, even when it doesn't seem like last year we think we're going to get the night off, nothing's going on, and turns out the blockbuster deal of the night involves the Thunder. I think the Thunder will make a move. I think it's going to end up being a wing player that they're after, whether they pick at 21 or where they move up. It's unlikely that they're going to be able to move Enes Kanter. That would be the best case scenario, is if they could move Enes for a nice piece, whether that's an improved draft pick or a sitting player. But Yeah, I think the end result is going to be the Thunder in search and obtaining, by whatever method, a wing, because that's really sort of the team need right now.
Okay, guys, you've been doing a series of great stories on potential draft targets for this team. But before we get to names, likelihood that the Thunder drafts at its current spot at 21 versus doing something different. Eric, what's the ratio there?
I like the likelihood of them drafting at 21. I just don't know if the player that they draft is going to be playing for the team when the season starts. I personally like the idea of the Thunder, either selecting for somebody else or trading down and acquiring a pick in next year's draft, because this is a really deep draft. Somebody's going to want to come up and get somebody that's probably in that number 21 to 25 range. The Thunder's at number 21. So if they can acquire more picks, they currently don't have a second rounder. They still need a backup point guard. Barry's been in the camp of, they can go out in free agency and get a backup point guard, maybe use that mid-level exception, which would be a great idea. But we're also going to be writing a story this weekend about Oklahoma State's Jajuan Evans. I think he might be a decent option in the second round. But, the Thunder could be picking for somebody else in this situation. And since they don't have a first-round pick in 2018, it might be a good idea to accumulate as many assets as possible, maybe trade back, see if somebody wants to give you some additional picks so they can continue to layer the roster with talent. Now, that's a tricky proposition with Russell Westbrook still being in the fold and trying to maximize his prime. But at the same time, the Thunder needs to think about adding as much talent as possible if they're going to get back to chasing a Golden State.
Assets have always been Sam Presti's thing, Brett. I mean, he wants those mid-level exceptions. He wants those just, random pieces of the puzzle that he can then use to his advantage. Is that what he's looking for, or is he looking for something, that's, again, going to be the biggest trade of the night?
Well, I wrote a story last week about the way they prepare for the draft. And one thing they do is they build their board, and they never deviate from the board. So whoever is there at the first, has the first spot on their board at 21, they're going to take. They believe in asset collection. I think their belief, Eric mentioned the fact they don't have a great history in free agency. And so the way they get a really good 27-year-old player is by having as many good 21, 22, and 23-year-old players as they can. So I won't be surprised at all if they keep the player that they draft. They will draft at 21. They can't trade it before they pick it. They could trade that guy after they've drafted him. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them keep him. I would not be surprised if they try to move up. The second round, I think, too, is interesting. There are 5 teams in the second round with multiple picks. I think those picks will be easy to get if you want to just swoop in and buy one. Okay,
I mentioned earlier you guys doing the run of great stories on potential targets at 21. Let's talk names. Brett, we'll start with you and come across the table. Most intriguing in your mind, person that could be the 21 pick, and whether they keep him or not. But who do you like?
There are a couple of guys I really like, and I'll try not to steal Eric's because we always do this. So, I think Eric and I are both finding out that every time we write about a guy and we watch his videos and stuff, we think, well, this guy would work, So there's a little bit of recency bias. So I'll talk about the guy I'm writing about today. Terrance Ferguson, I think, is a really, really intriguing guy. He's a shooting guard, wing type player. Spent the past year in Australia. He's a former 5-star All-American high school player. He committed to Alabama and then signed with Arizona, but didn't play. He went overseas to play in Australia. Had a great first half of the year shooting the ball. He is a good 3-point shooter. He's a really good athlete. Tailed off in that second half of the year, and I don't know what's up with that, whether he got fatigued as a young guy or played less exactly, or what happened. But he is a guy who can defend. I talked to Paul Biancardi from ESPN this week, who was in town for Jay Billis's camp. And one of the things he said was that the guys who coached him in USA Basketball, Sean Miller and Archie Miller, said the thing that really stood out to them, they knew he had the athletic talent, they knew he was a shooter. He really picks up defensive concepts quickly. He's really smart. He's got a high basketball IQ. When you think about youth, athleticism, perimeter shooting, and a high IQ, checks a lot of Thunder boxes.
Yeah, sounds like two-way wing potential there for Ferguson. What about you, Eric?
I got 2 guys. The guy I'm going to be writing about for Saturday, Jordan Bell. I've been high on him the entire process. I was really impressed with him in the NCAA tournament. Oregon lost a long defender in Chris Boucher, and Jordan Bell stepped in and really filled that rim protector role at a smaller size. He's around that 6'7" range, 6'6" range. Got a lot of that Draymond Green quality when it comes to defense. He can guard multiple positions. Not the ball handler or shooter of a Draymond Green, but he can develop into a guy who can expand his range out to the 3-point line. And also the guy I wrote about today, Shimmy Ojale. Shimmy.
It's a great name.
Yeah. He started his career at Duke, finished at SMU. He's one of the more efficient spot-up shooters in this year's draft. Has probably the best body or athleticism in this draft. He has a 48.5-inch vertical, 6'7", 240, 235 range. Can guard multiple positions at forward, and he's really kind of that new breed of hybrid forward that you need in today's NBA, who can play pretty much all three positions across the front line and can step out and hit the jump shot. So Shimmy, and he's also the older prospect. He's not a guy that the Thunder is going to have to wait on or coddle. He's a guy you could presumably have step in immediately and fill in some of those power forward or small forward minutes if Andre Robertson or Taj Gibson's to leave in free agency.
By the way, I gave credit to Baldwin City, Kansas is his hometown. It's actually Ottawa. Sorry, Baldwin City and Ottawa. Didn't mean to screw you up there. Barry, what names intrigued you?
Well, I like Ojale.
Shimmy. Just call him Shimmy.
I like Ojale. I like the defensive versatility. I know everybody wants scoring. I know the Thunder was a better defensive team than offense, so they need to beef up the offense. But one thing we learned in the playoffs, particularly the NBA Finals, if you don't have defensive versatility, you're sunk. Guy like Kevin Love is an NBA All-Star. Sometimes he just wasn't that valuable to Cleveland. Guy that can guard a lot of different people is the kind of guy you need. Taj Gibson, Andre Robertson, Eric Horn just mentioned him. We don't know if they're going to be back. Ojale would fill in if there's a void there.
All right, guys. Thursday night's the draft. Mark your calendars. Next Thursday night, a week from today. And then the next Monday, it's the MVP announcement, guys. And Brett, you'll be there. We'll talk more about that next week. Lots to come, but next Thursday, the following Monday, mark them on your calendars if you're a Thunder fan. And be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.